From the moment you were born, you were measured. By grades, by scores, by labels someone else decided mattered. They told you intelligence was a number, a test result, a certificate framed on a wall. That was never intelligence. That was compliance, rewarded. Real intelligence has nothing to do with memory or speed. It has nothing to do with sounding smart in polite conversations. And it has nothing to do with approval. True intelligence is leverage. It is the ability to see reality before others do, to move before permission is granted, to impose direction while others wait for instructions. Most people never develop it, not because they lack potential, but because the system trains them not to. There is a structure operating beneath your everyday life, invisible, unspoken, relentlessly efficient. It decides who leads and who follows, who shapes outcomes and who absorbs consequences, who eats and who is consumed. You were told you were free, but freedom requires awareness. And awareness is rare. Most people believe they are making choices. They aren't. They are executing scripts written by culture, fear, and habit. They mistake motion for agency, noise for power, information for intelligence. And they live their entire lives inside one invisible layer, never questioning it, never escaping it, never realizing there were levels above them. If you've ever felt like you were running hard but going nowhere, if you've ever sensed that others move through the world differently, if you've ever suspected the rules you followed were never meant to benefit you, stay with me. Because once you see the hierarchy, you can never unsee it. Society is not equal. It never was. It never will be. Equality is a story told to keep things stable. Beneath the language of fairness, opportunity, and freedom, there is a structure most people never notice. A hierarchy that does not announce itself. It doesn't wear uniforms. It doesn't need laws. It operates quietly, efficiently, and without apology. Some people move the world. Most people are moved by it. The difference is not intelligence in the academic sense. It is not talent. It is not effort. It is position. Most people live their lives inside a single role. They wake when instructed. They work where directed. They repeat opinions that feel familiar. They mistake routine for responsibility and obedience for morality. They are not broken. They are trained. Trained to react instead of initiate. Trained to wait instead of decide. Trained to seek permission instead of leverage. This is the class that keeps everything running. They fill offices, factories, timelines, and crowds. They are reliable, predictable, replaceable. They believe the system is neutral. It isn't. The system does not reward goodness. It rewards compliance. It does not elevate those who work hardest. It elevates those who fit best. Above them are fewer individuals who understand something uncomfortable. Rules are flexible, narratives are tools, and power belongs to those who recognize patterns early. These are the players. They don't follow momentum. They create it. They don't argue morality. They study incentives. They understand that most people never leave their assigned role, not because they can't, but because the role feels safe, familiar, warm, and safety is addictive. This hierarchy is not about domination. It is about awareness. And once you see where people stand, conversations change, reactions slow, intentions become visible. The question is no longer who is right, it becomes who is positioned to win. That is the hierarchy. Look around you, not casually, deliberately, on the street, in offices, at family gatherings, in digital crowds that never sleep. Watch how people move through space, how their posture collapses when no one is watching, how their confidence spikes only when they feel supported by numbers, how silence terrifies them more than being wrong. Listen closely. Most conversations are echoes. Opinions passed hand to hand like currency already worn thin. People don't speak to express thought. They speak to signal alignment, to show they belong, to avoid standing exposed. Notice the pause before they answer a question. That hesitation isn't thought. It's scanning. Scanning for what's acceptable. Scanning for safety, scanning for consensus. You begin to see patterns, predictable ones, the same phrases, the same moral outrage on schedule, the same jokes, fears, ambitions recycled endlessly. Once you notice it, something breaks. Faces lose depth, words lose weight, reactions feel mechanical. You realize most people aren't responding to reality. They're responding to scripts written long before they arrived. Scripts handed down by culture, family, media, and fear. And the most disturbing realization, they believe these scripts are them. This is where discomfort begins. Because the mirror doesn't only face outward, it turns inward. You start noticing moments where you waited before speaking, moments where you softened a truth to avoid friction, moments where you adopted a belief because it was rewarded. This is not accusation, it's exposure. The mind resists this phase hard because seeing clearly means accepting responsibility, and responsibility is heavy. So ask yourself, quietly, without performance, without justification, are you choosing or are you repeating? Because once that question lands, it never leaves, and nothing looks the same after. There are levels to intelligence, but not the kind measured in classrooms. This hierarchy has nothing to do with grades, IQ, or credentials. It is functional. It determines who reacts and who decides. At the base are the sleepers. They live entirely inside stimulus and response. Something happens. They react. News triggers emotion. Authority triggers obedience. Fear triggers compliance. They do not plan. They do not initiate. They endure. Above them are the mimics. The mimic. Most people believe the climb fails because of a lack of talent. They're wrong. Others believe effort is the missing ingredient. They're wrong again. Hard work doesn't free you. Intelligence doesn't free you. Even success doesn't free you. The real trap is invisible. It is ego. The moment you begin to succeed, the system offers you rewards, not to elevate you, but to anchor you. Titles, applause, status, comfort. A carefully managed identity you are expected to defend. And most people accept the trade without noticing the cost. Validation is the leash. Once you need approval, you are controllable. Once your self-worth depends on reputation, you are predictable. Once your identity is rewarded, it can be threatened. This is why so many high achievers never rise. They mistake recognition for freedom. They become invested in the very structures that confine them. They defend the rules because the rules feed them. They protect the system because the system protects their image. This is moral conditioning at work. You are taught that obedience is virtue, that dissent is danger, that effectiveness must be justified by goodness. So you hesitate, you self-censor, you negotiate with your own instincts, you stay inside the lines because stepping outside risks exile. And exile terrifies people more than failure. Look closely and you'll see it everywhere. Executives trapped by shareholders, creators trapped by algorithms, thinkers trapped by audiences, leaders trapped by reputation. They look powerful, they speak confidently, but every move they make is reactive. Power without inner sovereignty is not power at all. It is permission. The cruel truth is this. The most effective prison is the one that rewards you for staying inside, and most people never leave. Not because they can't, but because leaving would cost them everything they think they are. That is the trap, and it closes quietly. There comes a point where reaction collapses, where effort stops producing leverage, where strategy feels like movement without momentum, where winning individual battles no longer changes the war. This is not failure. This is a threshold. Up to this point, intelligence is reactive. You respond, you adapt, you outmaneuver within boundaries someone else designed. But eventually you notice something unsettling. No matter how skilled you become, you are still confined, still answering, still moving inside a structure you did not choose. This is where intelligence mutates, not into more knowledge, not into sharper tactics, but into authorship. You stop asking how to win the game. You start asking why the game exists at all. Real power does not argue with rules. It manufactures them. At this level, you no longer focus on people. You focus on systems. You design environments where outcomes are inevitable. You set incentives so behavior aligns without force. You build frameworks that guide action while appearing neutral. Those inside the system feel free. They are not. They are responding exactly as designed. This is why this level is misunderstood. People mistake it for arrogance, or manipulation, or coldness. It is none of those. It is structural clarity. Morality becomes secondary here, not because cruelty is embraced, but because effectiveness does not negotiate with sentiment. Gravity does not ask permission. Fire does not justify itself. Precision replaces passion. Distance replaces impulse. Silence replaces explanation. Those who reach this level are rarely celebrated. They are often resisted, sometimes attacked, because nothing frightens people more than discovering the invisible hand guiding their choices. At this stage, you are no longer reacting to reality. You are shaping the terrain it moves through. And once you taste that kind of control, returning to reaction feels like captivity. This is the turn, where intelligence stops being clever and becomes architectural. Beyond power, there is something rarer, detachment. Not weakness, not surrender, but the absolute refusal to be owned by anything external. At this level, identity dissolves. There is no image to defend, no role to perform, no reputation to maintain, which means there is nothing to attack. Most people mistake this for emptiness. They are wrong. This is subtraction, the removal of every lever the world uses to control you. Desire is neutralized. Fear loses its grip. Validation becomes irrelevant. You do not need approval. You do not need dominance. You do not even need to win. That is why you cannot be manipulated. Threats require attachment. Bribes require hunger. Pressure requires fear of loss. The void has none of these. It does not seek attention. It does not announce itself. It does not explain. Silence becomes its language. Stillness becomes its posture. Like water, it takes no fixed shape. Like gravity, it does not argue, only acts. Like a mirror, it reflects whatever approaches it. People project onto you their fear, their ambition, their insecurity, and in that reflection, they expose themselves. This is the highest form of sovereignty, power over the self. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are no longer shaping it out of compulsion. You act only when necessary. You move only when aligned. Everything else is noise. This is why the void cannot be ruled. There is no center to seize, no weakness to exploit, no craving to leverage. You own nothing, and therefore you cannot be owned. This is freedom from the game itself, not victory, not dominance. Exit, and once you experience this state, returning to identity feels like imprisonment, because the man who needs nothing cannot be controlled by anything. That is the void, and very few are willing to let go enough to reach it. Now the mirror returns to you. Not the version you perform, not the story you tell yourself, not the identity you borrowed to survive, the real position you occupy. Strip away ambition, strip away excuses, strip away the future fantasy you hide inside. Where do you stand right now? Most people avoid this question their entire lives because honesty is violent, because self-deception is comfortable. They prefer the warmth of the herd, the noise, the reassurance of numbers. Comfort tells you that you're fine. Comfort whispers that tomorrow will fix everything. Comfort says there is no urgency. Comfort is a lie. Clarity is cold. Clarity isolates. Clarity removes the anesthetic. Once you see where you truly stand, you can't unsee it. The illusions collapse. The excuses rot. The blame has nowhere to hide. This is where most people retreat. They close the video. They rationalize. They return to the familiar cage and call it peace. That is not failure. That is selection. Because this channel is not for everyone. It was never meant to be. This is not entertainment. This is not motivation. This is not a community built on comfort. This is a line. If you cross it, you accept responsibility for your perception, for your direction, for your transformation. Do not subscribe to support this channel. Subscribe to mark the moment you stopped observing from the sidelines, the moment you chose awareness over comfort, the moment you accepted the cost of seeing clearly. This is Mind Forge. Most will turn away. That's not a flaw. That's the filter.